think I ate one of her pubes.
That's probably right.
Jason is my son, and today is his birthday. Have dinner with us. My brother makes good head cheese. Candyman, I get cheese. Candyman, Candyman. We all go a little mad sometimes.
Welcome to the final podcast, the last podcast you will ever listen to. We are the creators of the Spooky Pit, the innovators of the Passion Bump, and we are taking you down the darkest rabbit hole of horror.
We are your final bros, Brian Hopwell LaGrassa and Shane, I love Blow, Smith. We are joined today by Jen, our May Queen.
Yes, accurate.
And Damien, the Eggman LaGrassa.
What's up, everyone?
Damien, pleasure to have you back.
Pleasure to be here.
You are the first 3-time guest.
Awesome. And Damien, we had him on for Stay Alive. We had him on for The Invitation, both banger episodes, and we're super happy to get into this one. I know that me and you, we actually went to the theaters together to see this. I also went to the theaters to see this with you.
Correct.
The very last episode of our Cult Classic Month, the pinnacle cult classic movie of the 2010s, I would argue, Midsommar.
Yeah. So it's sad that Cult Classic Month is ending. The Cultathon is over, but what better way to end it than the best one of them all, Midsommar.
I agree. I mean, Ari Aster killed it with Hereditary in 2018. He followed it up with another banger in 2019. I'm not going to even hide it. This movie is one of those, like maybe 2 or 3 movies that made me even want to do podcasting in general for horror movies. I've been looking forward to review this movie for so effing long. It's ridiculous.
So really, let's not bullshit. Let's jump right into the Spooky Pit.
A couple head to Sweden to experience a commune's midsummer festival. A beautiful getaway soon turns into a trippy nightmare at the hands of a pagan cult. This movie was released in 2019, directed by Ari Aster. It's a horror drama, and it stars Florence Pugh as Danny, Jack Rayner as Christian, Wilhelm Blomgren as Pela, William Jackson Harper as Josh, and Will Poulter as Mark. And I just want to say, we've had different takes on cult movies, and there's so many different ways they go. Some are more pagan cults. Some are like sects from like certain organized religions, like, you know, Judaism or Christianity or anything like that. And then you also have ones that are like more death cults or satanic cults. I think we've covered pretty much the ground of all of those. But here we're definitely touching on pagan worship and pagan cults. And I think it's just super interesting. I've never been to Midsummer Festival. I heard it's nothing like what goes on here. But this movie does tie in some real life events of old Scandinavian practices.
And we'll get into all of that. But first, we're going to mention that this movie opens with a tapestry. That is the first thing you see on screen, correct?
Yeah, it depicts like, you know, ladies dancing around a maypole, a bear, a skull, a smiling sun, all thematic elements that will play later on into this film.
You start to hear women chanting something as you see snow. You just see snow, and then you see a phone ringing, but no one is there to answer this phone.
Yeah, and I think the message machine picks it up, right?
And it's our main character, Danny, and she's calling because she got a very scary email from her sister, Terry. So she is checking in on her parents and Terry.
And I think there's a shot of like almost like a panning shot. They're showing all photos in their parents' bedroom of Danny, Terry, and the family. And the family just looks like they're sleeping on the bed.
Very heavy sleepers. Some would compare them to one Brian LaGrassa.
Oh, every episode. Here we go. This pagan to the left of me.
I mean, I'm sure Damien can vouch for me that Brian LaGrassa is the hardest sleeper of all time.
This is very true. I mean, I have the job of getting him up every morning, and it is quite the difficult task. He also has his alarm just like ringing right in his ear, and it's blasting metal music.
What the hell is going on?
You have to film it. You have to film it so I can post it to our Instagram.
Pure and total sabotage of the highest order, and I will have it no longer.
I'll make it brief, but what pretty much sums it up is he's got his iPad next to him, and that's his alarm to get him up, which is pretty normal. But it's right next to his face, and it's blasting metal music.
And as of today, that iPad is broken, so he will not be getting up.
That is true. My iPad broke. It's a very sad day.
But now that we've introduced Danny on the screen, so this only happens a few times and I didn't really understand it, but Danny's maiden name or surname is Ardor, and it's visible on the screen, like if you have subtitles up. It's actually Latin for the word flame.
That's cool.
I didn't know that.
Snippet there since we've introduced her.
I feel like a lot of times in our podcast, Jen says something and my response is just, I didn't know that.
So Danny's going to sit down, and as the viewer, you see the message that actually Terry left to her, which is really dark. And this is Terry's message to her. I can't anymore. Everything's black. Mom and dad are coming too. Goodbye.
It's very, very scary. So Danny calls her extremely loving and caring boyfriend Christian. The best way to describe this guy is boyfriend of the year.
Oh, for sure. Total boyfriend material. Like when she calls him before, she scrolls down her phone. She's been calling him. Like it's evident she has called him several times over the past couple of minutes. And rightfully so. I mean, she's freaked out. I would be. I think that's a serious alarm when someone sends you a message like that, no matter who it is.
Yeah, so she finally does get in touch with him. He's just like out there smoking, right? I believe is what he says.
Yeah, with a couple of friends.
Yeah.
He's just smoking.
And
Smoking with the boys.
yeah, he's just smoking with the boys. And she's like, hey, do you still like want to hang out tonight? And he's like, oh, did we actually like agree to that tonight? Like he's kind of hesitant, doesn't want to, boyfriend of the year material. But then he's like, yeah, I'll swing by. Christian, he's like, oh, so how's the sister situation? And she says she emailed her 3 times and there's been no response. And Christian is basically like, oh, you know your sister. This is all a ploy for attention, and blames Danny.
Mm-hmm.
All right, I can't joke about the whole movie. He's a piece of shit, and he's a very toxic boyfriend.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of just like always makes it seem like it's her fault, one for enabling people or like.
And he's so successful in getting her to believe it.
Yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, he's super toxic. Like you'll find out in like the next scene almost that he can't bring himself to break up with her. He really wants her to do it and makes it kind of obvious, but we'll get to how shitty he is. We'll describe every shit scene he's in.
Yeah, he's in a lot.
And so he's going to finish this phone call. She's going to say, I love you. And he says, all right. And they hang up.
There you go.
Great guy.
So I think she's on the phone now with one of her friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And she's kind of defending Christian. Her friend is like, well, don't feel like you should be sorry for overwhelming him. He's your boyfriend. That's what he's there for.
Yeah, she basically says she's like scared of scaring Christian off. And that's not the approach to take here.
Yeah, if you're scared that a guy's going to be scared off, he doesn't want to be there in the beginning. Like you can't just tiptoe around everything your whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it seems like she's had to tiptoe around him the entire relationship. Like she's always apologizing.
So now Danny's going to receive a call from an unknown number, but back to Christian, and he's hanging out with the crew. His friend Mark, who's Will Poulter, very funny guy, and definitely the comic relief of this movie, is telling him, break up with her. And he's like, he doesn't know. Maybe he'll want to get back with her. He doesn't want to have any regrets. He looks over at this waitress that's coming, and he's like, you could be getting that girl pregnant right now. And then Pele tells him, don't forget all the Swedish women you're going to impregnate in June.
Yeah, I'm going to bring this up now. Will Poulter is also kind of a piece of shit, but I love his character in this movie.
Yeah, he's the comic relief, and he's really funny.
He plays his character so freaking well in this movie.
Yeah, he does a great job.
He's a character you don't like, but you're not supposed to like him at all. And he does it well.
Danny calls him again, and obviously his friends don't want him to answer it, but he does. And she just is crying on the other line, like hysterically crying. And now the scene is going to cut to one of the most powerful scenes I've seen in horror cinema. There's firemen just kind of turning off the ignition of 2 cars in the garage, and there's a lot of smoke. You see cables running from exhaust pipes of these cars. One of them is going upstairs to the parents' bedroom where they walk in. Those parents, they were not sleeping. They were dead. The other one is going into what looks like Terry's room. As you see Terry kind of sitting down with the cable duct taped to her face, just taking the shit to her mouth. I think she got puke all over her shirt.
No, it's absolutely brutal. The hose is, like you said, it's duct taped into her mouth. So exhaust is just shooting down her throat. And she's purple.
Yeah, her face is kind of destroyed. They don't really focus on it that much. But when you look at her face, it's all smoked out. It's very hard to explain what she actually looks like, but it definitely did some serious damage.
In going to Hereditary, it's right away that impactful scene, like the pole scene in Hereditary, where it just focuses for 2 seconds on the aftermath later on. It just shows it for that brief second. But you feel everything he wants to show you in that just little bit of time.
Yeah, and this is you mentioned Hereditary. That happens a little ways in. This is 10 minutes into the movie.
When the camera pans up from Terry's body, it shows her computer, and you see 4 new messages,
Correct.
which were the 4 messages that Danny had been sending to
So
Terry.
she's been already
So
dead.
she had actually never read any of the messages.
Yeah, she was just preparing the whole time.
Exactly.
Unfortunately.
So the scene's gonna cut. Danny is crying on Christian's lap as the camera kind of pans out the window and the opening credits roll.
This is the scene where we pan to the painting, right?
Yes, it is.
So in this painting, there's a depiction of a bear and a woman wearing a crown over her head. And this painting is called Dacker's Bass. And it's by a Swedish painter named John Bauer, or Bauer. I'm not sure how to say that.
Maybe Bauer.
Bauer. Yeah. And he's famous for his art based on Swedish folklore and mythological creatures.
That's really interesting. And obviously this ties into the end of the movie, which we will get to.
It's amazing foreshadow in the simplest form.
I love it. So it's a great painting to use. And it's right above where she's going to bed right now.
And it's a real painting too.
Yeah, super cool.
I also want to point out Florence Pugh is tremendous at crying.
Very good. She's very visceral. I feel like you hear it from like the bowels of her stomach.
Yes.
Like she's so good
Like
at it.
she has mastered the deep sob. It's like I almost want to cry watching her cry.
I almost want to sob your ass. It's so deep. So now Christian's
I
gonna
think you broke Damien for a second on that one.
I couldn't take that one.
There is something where when her parents are dead, like when you're panning over all that, when the camera shows her parents dying and everything, like during Terry's suicide, I think Terry was her sister's name.
Yes.
You can see a laurel-like arrangement of flowers laid on a picture of like a young girl. And that's supposed to be Danny, like a childhood photo of hers.
So now Danny's laying down. Christian opens the door and she wakes up. He's like, I'm going to a party only for like 45 minutes. He's like, why don't you just stay in bed? You just go to sleep. You're doing your thing. He's like, no, I'm going with you. He's like, why are you not just going to sleep? Like he really wants her to just go to sleep.
I actually have a question. Is this supposed to be literally the next day?
I don't know. They never really confirmed that.
That's
I
what,
don't wanna...
I don't even want to give the guy the benefit of the doubt, but I kind of want to because like he's even worse than I thought if this is the next day and he's like, I want to go to this party.
Oh no, he's a piece of shit. Like he wants more than anything not to be near Danny. Like he wants Danny to be there when he needs her, but he doesn't want to be there when she needs him.
I don't think it's the next day because when you see that powerful scene where the sister's on the floor, they pan out the window and it's snowing.
That's a
And
good
then
point.
When they go to Sweden in the future, but in like 2-3 weeks, everybody's wearing like t-shirts and
That would make
boxing
sense
shirts. It had to be a legitimate amount of time between those two incidents.
That's a good point.
So now they're at the party. Josh mentions, they're all going to Sweden. He's going for his thesis on midsummer traditions, and the others are just kind of tagging along for a good time. They're discussing like where Pele's family lives. I think they live in a place called Hälsingland. Danny overhears this. She looks at Christian, who looks like completely unfazed, like he couldn't give a fuck about it. She asks him about him going, and he's like, we're thinking about it. We're thinking about it while like he's going. And she asks like, well, when is it? She's like, it's in June. She's like, that's in 2 weeks. And then Christian keeps talking as like this was a discussion and that, he may not go. But like she's looking around at everybody else's face and they're like looking down.
Yeah, like clearly they've all been planning this without telling her. And that's another one where I'm like, that's your girlfriend. Like even if it's just a guy's trip, you tell your girlfriend you're going to Sweden, right? I'm not wrong there.
He was planning on telling her the day that he left, like while he was on the airplane. Like they weren't going to mention it.
Yeah, it's like, oh, by the way, I'm in Sweden now.
Yeah, but he tried to play it off as like he was saying, oh, we were all thinking about it when they were all like under their breath. We're going.
Well, because that's the thing. Because now when they're back home, I think she even says, like, you have a plane ticket already.
That's the dagger right there.
Yeah. And this is another scene. I hate it, but I hate it because of how like uncomfortable it makes me feel. She's like telling him, she's like, I just want to like talk about this. Like, why didn't you tell me? Christian's like, you know what? I don't want to do this. I just want to leave. And then Danny gets all apologetic where she's like, oh no, I'm sorry, stay. I hate how much she apologizes to him.
Yeah.
And then he just lets her, like he won't own up and be like, this isn't working. I just need this time away. Like he could have said that.
He could have just broken up with her if he was this pissed off, like for so long, like maybe like obsessiveness or whatever it is. He should have just broke it off. But the fact that he lets this linger is worse for her. So clearly he gives 0 Fs. And like you guys said, he's a piece of trash.
He wanted to do the highest form of ghosting and just leave the country without telling her.
And it's not like he's going for like a day, 2 days, a week. He's going for like a legit like month and a half or something like that,
Yeah,
right?
it's a long trip. So I think cut now to Christian with his friends, right?
The boys are hanging out.
A couple things we learn is one, Christian has no idea what he wants to do for his thesis. And then he also kind of admits to his friends, he's like, oh, by the way, Danny's going to come with us to Sweden, but she's not going to come.
Yeah.
And I'm like, dude, come on.
Like, I invited her, but she's probably not coming.
Yeah, just to not make it weird. I invited her,
But she's not
but
coming.
she's not coming to Sweden.
She walks in and she's like, thanks for inviting me to Sweden, essentially. Like,
Josh is like, yo, Sweden, huh?
I think what's funny about this scene is like Christian has to set up the room ahead of time, let everybody know exactly how to approach it when she walks in. It's just like that kind of relationship is just,
Going
you
for the
know, it's
door.
not going to work.
He's going for the door to let her in, and he's like, oh, by the way, just to be clear, you guys told me to invite her, and then you all know that she's coming. Okay, and brings her in.
Yeah, I mean, that's ridiculous.
absolutely crazy.
Could have just broken up with her.
That's going to be an ongoing thing we say
And
multiple times.
She's honestly so sweet. I don't want to ruin your trip. I'm only coming because, you know, she thinks that they want her to come.
It's so sad. And she's also just like still good. Like, I don't even care if it's been like less than a year. She's still grieving. Like, her entire family just died.
Oh, yeah. Like, I can't even imagine what that's like. Literally, she lost her entire family in one night because of a member of her family.
And then you got Mark, because every group of friends has one dick, right? Believe it or not, Christian's a dick to his girlfriend, but the dick of the group is probably Mark. Like we
Even
mentioned.
though Christian is also a dick to his friends, we'll learn that later.
Everyone's like, yeah, we're happy you're coming, this and that. And the only one that actually looks genuinely happy is Pele.
I call him Pele.
And Mark's like, can I talk to you? He's like, I need to fix this paragraph.
Yeah, he's like, I need you to look at this paragraph
He's
for me.
probably reaming him in the back. Like, they don't show what that conversation's happening because they really just show Pele and Danny talking. Like, Joss doesn't really acknowledge Danny that much. I don't really think he cares. Like, he knows like Christian and Danny like aren't right for each other. I don't think he cares that much.
Yeah, see, I have no problem with Josh in this
Yeah.
movie. Josh is very much, like you said, knows
Yeah.
they should break up. He's not going to
It's not
Sweden
his
for any of
business.
this. He's
Yeah.
just going to Sweden because he wants to do his thesis. Like, he's strictly like there for like a scholarly thing, I feel.
Yeah, Pele is like the only one conversating with Danny, but you know in the back Mark is reaming him.
100%.
So that the audience gets a little background from this conversation with her and Pele. They find out that she could not finish the semester for obvious reasons. And then he mentions, you know, they're going to Hälsingland, Sweden, and they'll be arriving on Danny's birthday. He mentions that his family holds a 9-day festival. There's a lot of pageantry, ceremonies, and dressing up. And then he starts showing pictures of the commune. She sees like the girls dressed up in these white gowns. And he mentions they do this for the winter and the summer solstice. He then shows her the May Queen, what the May Queen looks like.
He tells her, which is why it can't be too far in the future. Oh, by the way, I haven't mentioned this. I'm sorry about your loss. And she instantly starts to break down from hearing this. She breaks down so much that when she runs to the bathroom to like wipe up her tears, she ends up in a plane.
I fucking knew you were going somewhere with that, dude.
She walks into the bathroom, and the bathroom ends up being
The plane bathroom.
the plane
Yeah.
bathroom.
Which is crazy because that means Mark has a plane in his bathroom.
Yeah, and I know that she goes from the bathroom where she's crying on the plane to sit next to Christian. And I'm going to just pause this podcast for a second because I got to bring on our relationship guru, Shane Smith. Shane, what do you predict from this relationship? Do we have a future here between these two lovebirds?
Okay, so I can break this down very easily. They are the worst couple I have ever seen, but they're going to end up married because neither one of them will break up with each other.
Yeah, and then he'll just cheat on her.
I don't think he will.
I think he will.
I don't think so. I think he just like sucks. Christian is the type of person that seems like he's so unmotivated in life. I don't even think he can motivate himself to cheat on her. Like, I think that would be too much effort for him. Am I like crazy in thinking
No.
that? But like,
No, because I think if like this whole thing worked out, like if she just hadn't found out, like I think he would eventually just leave her without saying anything.
That's
a
reasonable.
possibility. Like
Yeah.
he would go on a vacation or something and he would definitely cheat on her. I feel like couples like this, after they're together for a certain time, he doesn't care. Like he doesn't look at her as a girlfriend.
well, I think he even says earlier, he's like, I don't want to break up with her. His only logic in not breaking up with her is that he might regret it.
Yeah.
No joke.
Exactly.
It's a very selfish reason. Going to the point of like him breaking up, I feel like he's the guy that's either just gonna like cut it off and like just not even say anything, or he'll break up by text.
And I mean, another reason why is probably because she just got that terrible, terrible incident that happened. Is probably like if he was going to break up with her soon, he wasn't doing it around the time of that incident.
Of course
He was
not.
Nowhere close.
Yeah, at that point, you stay together for a month and just be there for someone to be, you know, a good person and then be like, I'm sorry, but this isn't working.
But he would probably just like go away for a certain amount of time, send her a postcard like, I'll be back in like a few months, and then come back and like a month later and leave.
So now the scene's going to shift to the 4-hour drive from where they get, I don't exactly, is it Stockholm? I'm not sure. I don't think it was, because I know they were explaining earlier that they were going to be in a different direction than Stockholm.
Yeah, because they're driving to, I think we said it, Hälsingland.
That's what they're driving now. And it's a 4-hour drive from where they plane flew in on.
They do that drive. Now, it's a cool shot. Damien actually brought to my attention. As they're showing the car drive down this like straight road, the camera flips like 180. And I'll let you describe what you think was going on here.
Right. So as they're driving, you hear this like low, ominous tone. You're seeing the back of the car driving, and then you just kind of see the camera do a complete flip, like a 180 over the car, and now kind of like turned into the windshield. So you actually see the people that are in, the driver's seat driving. It's interesting because when they're doing this 4-hour drive, it almost looks like as if they've left one dimension and have entered a completely different realm, is the way they've shown it.
And now that I've seen this movie about 4 times, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Like when you see this movie, they go to a different dimension almost.
Yeah, I think that's an excellent point, Damien. It does like adjust back, and you do see them pass the sign of Hälsingland. So like they are in this new dimension and they're here. I think now they walk on this like open field, right? Open environment. You see like kind of people are together, like various patches of grass. And Pele introduces them to some young people from his village, and they've also brought back people from outside trips.
Simon and Connie.
He introduces them to his brother, Ingemar, and these are friends with Simon and Connie, who they meet up with. Ingemar then rips out the shrooms.
They're all excited to do the shrooms, except for Danny, who's like, I don't think I'm ready for this kind of thing, which is a super fair point, because I've never done shrooms, but I know you need to be in that right like mindset, because if you have a bad trip, it's probably over for you for a few hours.
And she doesn't even insist that like he doesn't take them. Like she's like, you go ahead. I want to chill. Like she wants to take everything in. And he's like, oh, well, I won't take them now. And then his friends are like, but we can't have separate trips. And he's like, well, why don't you guys take them later? So he's kind of like almost pressuring her into making the choice.
Yes, he's subtly pressuring her.
Yeah, I mean,
sure.
This actually easily could have been solved by her just not taking them and her sitting there while they went on the trip.
She feels pressured like she's going to be a buzzkill, and she doesn't want to do that.
With everything that's happened, she's so vulnerable. And you just wish Christian would be like, guys, I'm just not doing this. Me and her, we're not going to take them right now. He just never does that.
I don't know. This is just peer pressure 101, to be honest. If you have no intention of taking them, you just have to put up your backbone and just say no. But she never lets that opportunity arise.
They take them. They sit on the grass and they like just start tripping. Like Mark's actually really funny in the scene because while they're sitting on the grass, a new person walks by and he's like, is that new people? I can't handle new people right now.
Yeah, it's funny because Christian too, he's like, a new person, fuck, and he just like, puts his head down. And the dude's creepy. He just walks by, he's like, hello. And he just like has a smile on his face. He actually has a smile on the face the whole movie, that guy.
The people in this like commune are all very happy and pleasant, except for one scene. Danny has this like, this is the first time this happens to her. She sees grass growing into her hand. And now, since it happens again later in the movie, is there like a deeper meaning to the grass growing into her? Or is that just what she sees in her trips?
I'm sure there's some kind of deeper meaning.
The Midsummer Queen's supposed to be one with the earth.
That would make sense to bless the crops. So it's essentially foreshadowing of her becoming one with the earth. Okay. I always say, you bring the little things I don't pick up on. It's perfect.
She brings the heat.
When I'm paying attention to these films and I'm not like looking over my shoulder like, ugh.
Well, this is one of the easier ones for Cult Month.
Oh yeah, this one was so much better than what was the last one, like Society or the Sect. Ugh.
The Devils, Wicker Man.
Wicker Man didn't bug me as much, but the original probably would have.
The original
is such a better movie.
The original's so good.
But we're not talking about that. We're talking about Midsommar. So after she sees the grass growing in her, she starts walking because she's like freaking out. And then like this group of people just starts laughing. And she instantly feels like they're laughing at her.
Yeah. She even asks Ingemar. She's like, they're laughing at me. I mean, they've always been laughing. She like kind of runs into like this bathroom, right?
And she's shed bathroom.
Shed bathroom, but it has a mirror, right? She lights a match. She's like, thinks there's someone behind her.
Well, there is in the mirror. There's like an image. I think it's a quick flash of her sister.
Yeah, right. But she looks around and there's nothing there. So she's like, kind of like seeing it. And then she like all of a sudden like, just runs out of the bathroom, like right into the woods.
Doesn't her face look distorted when she looks in the mirror again, though?
Yeah, it's all like
the whole scene, and even throughout the end of the movie, like everything's just like has this cool, like trippy infusion to almost all these shots, especially with the greenery and the different colors in the trees.
And so as she's running into the woods, she sees an image of her family.
Yeah, they're kind of like together, right?
Yeah,
Her family entirely together. And then she wakes up.
And Christian is waking her up, and he says, "We found you here 6 hours ago."
Which would mean that in their time, she actually slept overnight.
This is where they kind of establish that like the daytime is longer here. They mentioned that the sun is out longer right now during this time of year.
The midnight sun.
The midnight sun. So yeah, she slept in the woods for 6 hours. I'm assuming they found her earlier in the 6 hours. Knowing Christian, they probably didn't look for a few hours.
Yeah, she still woke up to daylight, right?
Yeah.
She's still daylight.
Yeah. It's kind of like Alaska, where like certain times of the year they have 20 hours of sunlight and only 4 hours of darkness.
And then they have that month of darkness.
Yep.
30 Days a Night.
Which is a movie we should review.
I love that movie. Great vampire movie. So now they walk through a forest and they're walking through like a large archway. It appears to be like this triangle with like this sun on it. And this is the entrance to Harga, the commune, where they are greeted with beautiful song. I think everybody's playing like these
Flutes.
It's a very good greeting. Everybody's wearing these white outfits. They're like really impressed with how this place looks.
Yeah. So if I was coming here, instantly I'm like, great, I came to a cult. Everyone's wearing the same exact white gown.
Yeah, so like even when everybody's walking in, they're technically like tourists. So when they're walking in, you just get this sudden burst of like light on the screen, and then all you see is just everybody's wearing white, and it kind of looks like an Eden. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like green
This
grass.
is this where the kids are playing Skin the Fool? I'm pretty sure it is.
I think it is too. I'm not entirely sure.
It was a very quick thing. Like Simon just says, "Oh, what are they playing?" Because they're just kind of going through and like for the next like 10 minutes or whatever, or like middle of the movie, they're just gonna explore the commune. At one of those scenes, the kids are playing, and he's like, "What are they playing?" And they're like, "Oh, playing Skin the Fool. It's a midsummer tradition."
Is it Pele's dad comes and welcomes them to the
He
commune?
calls him Father Ood, but I don't know that's his dad per
It's
se.
not, because he mentions to Danny that his parents both had burned. So
That's
we're
right.
assuming we haven't gotten to the rules yet, but we're assuming his parents passed the age of 74.
Yeah, and then someone just runs up and it's like, how'd it get burned? How'd it get burned? How'd it get burned?
That's true. That actually happened. Oh, wait, no, that's the Wicker Man.
Fucking wrong movie. You get mixed up with all these cults.
So Father Ood's an interesting guy. He seems very friendly, right? And he mentions, they're all wearing these white frocks. This is in honor of Ymir and the hermaphrodite qualities of nature. He's very welcoming. And he lets them know, we'll give you everything you need. But the official ceremony actually starts tomorrow. Everybody starts gathering and like in this circle. And then a lady starts to speak. I think her name is Siv. And Josh asks Pele, because Josh is the historic guy. He's the anthropology major. He's doing his thesis. He asks Pele if he can take pictures. He's like, only discreetly. And this lady, she says, "Happy Midsummer. It's been 90 years since their last great feast and will be 90 years until their next." They raise their glasses. She toasts by saying, "Let the 9-day feast commence."
Go Vikings. Skull.
Skull!
There's two people on the stage, and then she passes the lit torch to both of them.
Yes.
And these are the older
Yes.
people.
So now you see like a quick shot. I want to mention it early of this disfigured person who's just finger painting. But this disfigured person has a big role in this movie, even though he's got a small duration or cap in this movie. He's got an important role, but he's finger painting and it looks like mush.
So like our group is sitting like in the grass again, because that's what you do here. And they see people like running in line, like holding hands, playing this like dancing game. This one specific girl, red hair, she kicks Christian in the butt. So he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go join in.
Yeah, it's like a dance, right? They're like dancing in this circle. It's like a ginormous circle, right?
Yeah, it's a big line dance. And so once this girl kicks Christian, he goes to join. I think then Mark and Josh also go to join.
Yeah, I think all those guys do.
So Pele, though, stays behind and he says, "Hey, Danny, happy birthday." And he hands her a hand-drawn picture of her. And this is when I'm first starting to like get that vibe that Pele was excited that Danny was coming because he's kind of into Danny.
Oh, yeah. If you didn't get it from the conversation they had, because they have like, some kind of similarities because of their parents upstairs in Mark's place, you get it here. Gives her this gift, this drawing, which is her happy birthday. And then she confides in him that Christian forgot her birthday. But then she apologizes because she forgot to remind Christian that it's her birthday. Shame on her.
It's such a shame. This girl deserves so much better than Christian.
Dude, this is like a girl I killed to be with. She's super cool, super nice.
He's just really trying to be a bad boyfriend. I mean, you're going to see throughout the course of this film, they're really driving this divide between them two. But honestly, you really have to be some kind of awful boyfriend to do the kind of things that he does. You can't forget birthdays or the day the relationship even started. Those are like the two big things, absolute must-haves.
I would even say, even if you don't like your girlfriend, you should still know those days, unless he's doing it intentionally, which I don't think he is. He just looks like he tuned them out.
Yeah, I feel bad for her too, because like I said, it's like she always feels like it's her fault. But I think that's because she's still feeling so much grief and she doesn't want to like lose him, because that's like the one thing she has.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just miserable. This is where we learn that Connie and Simon are engaged.
I like how Ingmar tries to propose that he was like dating Connie, and he's like, no, we weren't.
She was like, we went on a couple dates that I didn't really know were dates. And then they're like, so how long have you two been together? And the body language is so intense here because Connie and Simon are literally like just attached at the hip and in between Danny and Christian as like the driving force between them. And Christian's like, we've been together for 3 years. And Danny looks at him and she's like, 4 years.
Yeah.
He's like, oh, you know what? She's right. 4 years.
Christian sees this like yellow triangle in the background. And this is a thing that we learn is a sacred building, but nothing else. But what this movie does very well is there's so many shots in this movie where the building is just in the background. So it's always like in the back of your mind that this building is here. And what is it for? But what's also great about this scene is that there's a bear in a cage. Ignore it.
It's funny that you mentioned that because Pele is showing his group to the sleeping quarters. Simon spots a bear and he's like, we're not going to go talk about that bear. He's like, it's a bear. What's there to talk about?
Then before we go back to the sleeping quarters, I'm pretty sure we walk right by, because we're still walking around the place, we walk by the tapestry indicating a romantic story known to these people.
Now, I know our listeners love a good romantic story. So this one depicts all the things that you would do that are romantic.
And you are the king of romance.
Exactly. Like, I like someone, I'm cutting off my pubes and baking it in a pie.
Exactly, yeah, because this is exactly what it's depicting. A weird love story, kind of like showing a woman cutting her pubes with a scissor, putting her pubic hair in a bowl, bleeding in that bowl, and then serving it to her man that she likes, him eating it, and then falling in love with her.
You never had a pubic period pie?
Maybe 07?
It was a good year, 07. Especially for pie.
So now the group that's with Pele notices the sleeping quarters, and they're marveled by this place because it's full of drawings, murals, pictures, and paintings.
I'm going to throw it out there right now. This sleeping quarter is my nightmare. I can't fall asleep if there's a lot of noise going on or if there's like someone who snores. If you're sleeping in one giant room with about 40 beds, there's going to be one snorer who keeps me up all night.
And that's Brian.
No. Brian, I don't think snores.
I don't snore. Apparently, I'm just unconscious.
I could throw out someone who definitely kept me up all night snoring. Our last guest, Sauce McGavin, because I remember an AC trip where he was basically howling until 4 a.m.
You guys reviewed Sleepaway Camp. That's how these boys and girls sleep. Log cabins of 30, 40 people.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's my nightmare.
Maybe not that many, but 15, 20.
I love like learning like the history of the cult, even though you like know some of these are like far gone. You like to know the history, and I like how Pele breaks it down. He mentions, the kids sleep here until they're 36 in this place. All kids until they're 36. So 36 sleeping with babies, not with them, but in the same room. Just clarify that.
Very good clarification.
And then they move to the laborer's house. Pele says they think of life as the seasons. You're a child until you're 18, and that's spring. You do your pilgrimage from 18 to 36, which is summer. 36 to 54, you're a working age, which is fall. 54 to 72, you become a mentor. And Danny says, what happens at 72? And then he makes this gesture like he's cutting his head off. Like, that's it, you're done.
So while all this is getting explained, Danny is looking at pictures of all the May Queens. And then I'm like, oh, wow, Wicker Man was very accurate that they keep all of them framed each year. So I was like, wow, Wicker Man did something right.
Did one thing right.
That's about the only thing. While she's looking at this, Christian pulls Danny aside to give her a birthday cake, which looks like just a piece of yellow sponge cake. And this scene perfectly depicts their relationship because he can't light the fucking candle.
I know. I was thinking the same thing when I was watching them. Wow, this guy, not only is a piece of shit, he literally can't do anything right. He can't light the candle.
So then they just go to sleep. Like, there's really not much more I want to say about that.
So it's interesting because like now you're going to see back at the sleeping quarters, there's a baby crying. First scene that's like super odd. She puts a pair of scissors under the baby's pillow. Pele tells them, first of tomorrow's ceremonies is the Atta Stupa. Pele's like, don't worry, I'm not going to tell you. You'll find out tomorrow. And Christian's like trying to look it up but I don't think he's got service.
Yeah.
So he can't like really check out what the Ada Stupa is.
One other thing that's very interesting that happens in this scene is when Danny is going to sleep, which obviously she can't because of all the noise and stuff, she looks up and right above her is a woman slitting her wrists on the tapestry, which I thought was very symbolic of like what's happened in her life with her sister.
And it's like under the smiling sun too.
Yeah.
Have you noticed that? So the Ada Stupa. Nothing could prepare you for what you're about to watch, but we're going to dive right in right now.
What I do think that's funny is that one of the characters already knows what it is.
Yeah, Josh, because he's a scholar, and he like doesn't say anything. Like,
Yeah.
like Christian's like, fucking tell me, dude. And he's like, "Nah, nah, nah." But like he even questions Pele. He's like, we're doing a real one? And he's like, yeah, he nods.
And I think that's why Josh doesn't say what it is. Because I don't even think, despite him knowing what it is, that he believes a real one is about to happen. I think he thinks it's just going to be like a show of some sort.
Yeah.
So the next day, they all are standing around a table waiting to sit down. But I think someone mentions they can't sit down until like something happens.
He comes back for a few parts. We don't really see Mark that often.
No, we don't.
He disappears a lot.
But he's here for
this
part.
one.
Everyone's standing still, right? And then a little boy rings a bell. An old lady and an old man walk forward. They're wearing these blue robes. Everyone's wearing white, besides the groups of the outsiders. But these two are wearing blue robes, an old woman and an old man. They join the edge of the table, and then once they get there, everybody sits down. Josh whispers over to Pele. He's like, are these the ones? And he's like, yes, they are. As soon as the old couple starts to eat, literally in person by person order after them, they all start to eat in sequence.
Yes. While they're doing this, Mark and another girl, they lock eyes.
This is Hinga
Yes. They kind of have this like eye thing going on.
or Inga.
We'll call her Inga. Inca Cola.
And he's getting hot and bothered. So now the old couple, they stand up. They start to do this very weird chant. And throughout this movie, a lot of the people in this commune, they do this thing where they breathe out and then breathe in real quick. It's like a...
Skull.
It's what they do. The old couple, along with everybody, hold up for a toast. And all of a sudden, they start getting carried away on these chairs by men in blue robes. They're
Yes.
just carried away.
And this is where Jen was mentioning. Mark's like, all right, I'm going to go to sleep. So he just leaves
Yeah,
and he's
pretty
out of the next scene. So then the group follows these people being carried on chairs. And we cut to the group standing at the bottom of a cliff looking up. And there's just this very high ledge. Then Josh asks in the scene if he can read the book that a man was reading from earlier, but it's a sacred book and he's not allowed to look at
Are you
it.
talking about the Ruby Rotter?
Yeah, the Rubicon, the Rubik's Cube.
The Ruby Rotter.
It's their Bible.
Yeah.
The old man at this point, on top of the cliff, right? He has his hand slit. He falls to his knees and he's spreading the blood on like this runic stone. Everybody in the crowd, they look at this old woman and she's stepping, and this is a really high cliff. She's stepping at the edge of the cliff. She kind of does this thing where she like extends one arm to the sky, like she's reaching out to the sky with his one hand. Danny's like looking like, what the fuck is going on? It's like she's super confused. The old lady, she looks down at them. And then she kind of like grabs Christian's arm, just has this shocked look on her face as they watch this woman literally fall to her death.
Yeah. Her face smashes into a large rock and you kind of just see it explode.
Yeah, the bounce back from her against the rock, you just see her face and it looks like a watermelon that's cut in half.
Yeah.
It literally explodes.
Yes. Simon and Connie are just flipping out. They're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, we got to get out of here. Then they show the very graphic shot of the face, like just a mangled mess. And like the group is panicking. And then the old man comes up and he takes a different approach.
Yeah, so if you thought that was bad, wait till you see this.
The old man jumps off pencil style. Just both his legs explode.
Pencils down, don't know why. He misses the stone.
The crowd kind of boos. Like,
Well, because he's still alive.
yeah.
Here's the deal about this place. He's in fucking horrible, agonizing pain. In this commune, they share pain. So as he's in pain, they're in pain with him.
Yes. So now they're all moaning and they bring this comically large hammer towards him. There's like 4 of them, right? That bring the hammer over there.
Yeah, 2 girls, 2 guys.
And each one of them takes a turn smashing his face in.
The graphic nature of this scene is insane because if you look at his leg is not only are they in opposite directions, they are like a bloody mess.
Oh yeah, they exploded.
they did explode. His legs are literally by his face. Like they are literally the exact 180 opposite direction.
And so Connie and Simon, they are done and they're like, we're leaving. And the woman's like, it's custom. It's a great joy for them. Like, you have to understand this. They wanted to do this.
So the practice of the Autosupa, it's labeled as effectively a myth, but the practice is, like, as they've said, like in this particular commune, like obviously people only live till about 74, but it's that the elderly were expected to sacrifice themselves for the good of the village, because like you don't want to have to take care of like people who have dementia or anything. You don't want to get too old and not be able to take care of yourself. And the original source for this like whole story of the Autosupa is from 13th century Iceland accounts. There were accounts in like Norway and Scandinavia that all have been proven to only have been referred to by 18th and 19th century historians with no prior references, but it's mostly an Icelandic thing and their medieval traditions. So there are accounts, but nothing saying that anyone practices it. And it says later everyone reverted to Christianity. Like, I have no proof. I'm just reading what I found on the internet. So, of course, like if you know more about this tradition, mainly Icelandic, obviously go tell me about it on our Instagram. I'll be happy to repeat it. But yeah, that's the only thing I could really find off this.
Well, I'm going on record as saying if you read it on the internet, it's definitely true, because the internet never lies.
Well, I guess then one of the commune members tries to, stop Simon from freaking out and explain to him that, they see life as like a cycle. And so, they give their lives when they're 72 so that, it's not a struggle to survive, because they think that, taking medication and living while struggling like corrupts their spirit. So they'd rather give up their body when their body is still healthy. And then the cycle kind of goes back to the start, where one of those babies will have her name and the gentleman's name when they die. And then that's how the cycle just starts again.
Yeah.
So it's all a circle.
It's like I said, it's like literally a recycling circle. You don't want to live in pain and shame. You just want to die, I guess they cap it at 72.
I'm going to go on record and say the man died in pain.
Yeah, I'm going to say that too.
A little.
But with all that said, now, boyfriend of the year, Christian and Danny are walking back, and Danny is sobbing and sobbing. So Christian, doing the boyfriend thing, says, I need to go tell Josh something, and leaves her.
Yeah, he's got something important to say, because after seeing that spectacle, he's fucking appalled. He's so appalled that he actually wants to do his thesis on Harga.
If he couldn't have been a worse boyfriend, now he's just the worst friend.
Yeah, if you don't think Christian can get worse, now he's stealing one of his best friend's thesis. Like, they all came here knowing Josh's thesis was going to be on this. And Christian's like, yeah, we could both do it. We could like work together.
And Josh is fucking pissed.
And I would be too if my friend was stealing my thesis.
Christian's like, listen, I'm open to doing a collaboration on the Harga. But Josh is just like absolutely like shocked.
No, he literally is just like, yo, fuck off.
So Josh is now asking Pele if he can get access to read the scripture. And Pele tells him, it's not possible, but he's going to ask the elders, because that's who he's got to get permission from. The scene's going to cut to Pele walking in on Danny, packing her bag. She's ready to go. And I would be too if I saw anything like that.
Yeah.
And she's like, I don't even know why you invited me here. And he's like, I wanted you to come most of all, because I know exactly what you're going through. He's like, listen, I lost my parents too. They burned up in a fire. And she's like, no, listen, that's not what's happening. He's like, listen, it is. He's like, I was an orphan, but the difference was I had everyone here. This is my family. Yeah. He's like, listen, you deserve a family as well. And then they start holding some hands. He's like, does Christian feel like home to you?
She doesn't answer that question. That's when I'm starting like to first get my vibes of, obviously like Pele's into Danny, but then I'm like, this whole thing is kind of him recruiting her to the cult. That is the purpose of her in this movie as the main character, is being assimilated into this cult. I mean, trust me, I didn't guess the rest of the stuff that was going to happen in this movie, but I understood where her direction was going.
Yeah, so now you're going to see the two older people that were jumping off of the cliff. They're getting burned. Christian finds Danny sitting by herself in the grass. He's like, listen, what happened was a cultural thing. While it was shocking, he's trying to keep an open mind. And she just looks at him like, are you fucking out of your mind, dude? You not just see what just happened?
Well, that's when Pele finally tells her how his parents burned up in a fire and how he knows exactly how he was feeling. This is when they're watching the burning, right?
Yes, yeah. But now the scene's going to cut to nighttime. It's at the sleeping quarters. And she's going to ask Josh for a sleeping pill. She wakes in the middle of the night and she sees Christian, Josh, and Mark, and they're sneaking off outside. And they're like, don't wake her, don't wake her, don't wake her. They get in the car and they leave. And as they leave, you see like this black smoke come out of her mouth. there are shots of like the old man is getting hit in the face with a mallet. The same mallet when he died by jumping off there and rocketing him in the face. And then she sees Terry like with the cable in her mouth, like against the stone where the old couple fell on. And then Terry opens her eyes and then Danny kind of like, you get it, she's having a nightmare.
That sleeping pill hit her a little different.
For sure. I think this whole experience is just starting to hit her a little different.
So also during this, Josh sees the redheaded girl from earlier that had kicked him. We don't know her name yet, right? I know her name, but do we know her name at this point in the movie?
Not at this point.
That's his sister, right?
That is Pele's sister, yes. We see her slip something under Christian's bed, and Josh is still awake and notices this.
Wait, biological sister or, like cult sister?
No, I believe this was biological sister.
I think it's his real sister.
Oh, okay.
So the next day, they wake up, and we see them putting the ashes by a sacred tree. Pele comes to Josh and he tells Josh, you can talk about this place, but you can use no names and you do have to split it with Christian because he came to me first.
It's okay, I'll figure it out. He shows him the room that he found under Christian's bed. And then Pele is like, it's a love rune used to cast a love spell. And then Christian comes over and Pele's like, hey, listen, you can read the scripture, but you can't, use any names or reveal the location. And he's like super happy. And obviously he's like, I'm willing to collab with Josh.
This is also where we do learn it because I have it written down here. Mentions his sister Maya is taking a liking to Christian.
And quote me on this, but she just had her Bixmandig last year.
Oh, yeah.
Which means she's allowed to have sex now.
Yeah, he describes it as the pants off thing.
Yes, literally.
While all this is happening, though, Mark is pissing on the ancestral tree.
And this sets a character named Ulf the fuck off.
Yeah, this is the first time you're going to see any of these cultists.
I call them members of the commune,
Yeah.
Harga people, whatever you want to call them.
Like, actually freak out, like, in terms of, like, at the guest. Like, what are you doing? Get away. You're defiling our sacred tree.
And they talking, what is the language? Is it Swedish, Scandinavian?
Scandinavian.
I'm not completely sure. I know it's mentioned like somewhere, but they actually, I think for the majority of the movie, they don't put any subtitles for any of the language barrier. And they actually do that on purpose to make sure the viewer's isolated. They don't want the viewer to be kind of in on it. Like you get in some movies where they're speaking another language and we can read what they're saying. They don't want you doing that in this at all. They want you to feel isolated, just like Danny and Christian and everyone who's new to this commune.
I like that a lot, because that's what cults kind of do to you. They take you if you're isolated.
Yeah.
And what Ulf says to him while he's pissing on their ancestral tree, he goes, put your disgusting dick away. You're peeing on our ancestors. And then Pele pulls Mark away. He's like, dude, you just peed on the ancestral tree. This is tied to all of our dead.
All right, can I just say something, though? This ancestral tree needs a sign or something, because it's like the least, if you're looking at the ancestral tree, you're thinking this giant tree and it's got like, I don't know, just blooming flowers and it's just a beautiful thing that everybody sits under.
You're not thinking the log that's down on the side?
It's a dead log and they're shoving the dead ashes like into the log and they're calling this the ancestral tree.
I mean, if he was awake, I think that he would have noticed that they were doing that. Like they were doing something with the tree because everyone else was awake. Like no one else did it.
Well, yeah, he does say, he's like, dudes, like the one time I go to sleep, I missed that.
Yeah.
Like he wanted to see these people commit suicide.
Is this tree like literally like just down on the ground?
Yeah,
It's a down log.
Yeah.
It might even be like close to where that they've burned everyone, like in this one area. Like, so he literally picked the area where they just burned everybody to go pee on it.
So from this, we cut to Connie running into the barn and she sees Danny and she's like, her and Simon are leaving. Like they've had enough. And that's when a guy comes up and he's like, oh, Connie, Simon left already and they'll send the truck back for you. And Connie is not buying any of this.
Oh, no.
She's like, Simon, he wouldn't do that. She's like, he's not Christian.
Oh my. I think it's Father Ood that points it out, that walks over and he's like, listen, there was no room for her in the truck. And look, it's coming right back for you.
Mm-hmm.
And then Danny interrupts Christian, who's talking to a member of the commune. Yo, did you know, like Simon, like literally just left without Connie?
Oh no, man, that sucks.
He's like, that really does suck.
So tell me about the incest.
Yeah, he literally goes on to talk more about the commune, like completely like ignoring his girl.
All right, but there is no, like, I know there's trucks that only carry 2 people, but you also have the back of the truck if it's a pickup truck.
I'm glad you mentioned that because Father Ood specifically mentions we don't break laws here. And since there's no seatbelts, they can't take more than one person.
But
Oh.
they also like all came down together.
Shh, we don't need to
They didn't, I don't see any trucks around.
Yeah, no, it's a completely bullshit excuse.
Yeah.
But to be fair to the movie, it's supposed to be a completely bullshit excuse.
Yeah.
Danny's like looking right through him. She's super pissed at Christian. They witness Josh walk into this building with one of the elders. Danny is now asked to assist the girls who are making these like little pies, and she agrees. Are these meat pies?
Yeah, they're meat pies.
You like a good meat pie?
Yeah, especially if it has pubes in it.
The redhead is actually putting down her meat pie like on the side.
They specifically linger on that meat pie, so
So,
like,
something's going on with that meat pie.
Yeah.
Exactly, because they put special emphasis on
is it Inga who's showing Danny how to make the pie?
Yes.
Yeah. I'll be honest, a lot of these characters look similar in the commune.
Mhm.
I didn't know who was who. I only knew Maya because she had red hair.
I don't think it really matters. I think they did that to Maya purposefully just to have her stick out.
Yeah.
So Josh is told by the elder that the Ruby Rotter has blank pages at the end because it's a never-ending scripture, and there are hundreds of them. And the elder mentions that Reuben wrote the current iteration, and Josh sees Reuben in the doorway, and it's a disfigured man who's doing the color paintings. He writes, and they interpret. And the reason why they use someone like him is because he's unclouded by normal cognition, open for the source. Reuben was a product of inbreeding, and he's considered the oracle. The oracle is always a deliberate product of inbreeding here.
So we just got all the backstory we needed on their sacred text and how it's kind of bullshit.
They interpret what this guy scribbles on a page.
Yeah.
Deliberate inbreeding,
Yeah.
because they think that, I guess, the inbred's mind has eclipsed the normal conscious person.
It's a very interesting idea. This is what they base their holy scripture off of.
I thought that it was also a specific like writing that just like they all know, but then they let him write it how he wants. Is it just scribble?
No, I assume it's however he writes, right?
Is that when he writes? He also paints on it too. If you know,
So maybe it is them interpreting his paintings?
It's both.
Okay.
Yeah, it's both.
Yeah, because he does show him a page with like legitimate runes that
Yeah.
he can read off, or
Yeah.
like, scripture.
From this, we cut to Mark, who is by our favorite yellow triangle. Him and a girl kind of like wave at each other.
Mark is feeling kind of weird though about her. Like he's like trying not to make eye contact with her. And is he trying not to make eye contact with her or the guy who is freaking out at him? I'm not sure.
I believe he was waving at her, but he was close by. He doesn't want to Then we cut to where we get into our deep dives.
And I'm really hungry, dude.
At the dinner portion, there's a lot of specific things to pick up in this scene. One of them being the drinks, because I didn't notice this the first time I watched it. Watching it on repeat, it's very obvious now. All the drinks are yellow, a very like lemonade-y yellow, but Christian's has this slight orange tint to it. Yeah, it's almost pink.
He's having pink lemonade. Shane, everyone else's lemonade.
Brian, please tell me why the lemonade is slightly pink.
It might have a tinge of pussy blood.
Just a little bit.
Just a tad bit.
Just like the cake that he has, that girl was so delicately taken care of, might have just a little bit of pubic hair and maybe other bits of hers just throughout the meat pie.
Because he definitely pulls a piece of hair out and he's like, I think it's pubic hair.
Yeah, because Mark calls it out. He's like, oh my God, dude, you're eating a pube. It is like a little curly pubic hair.
Yeah.
Connie's like gone at this point, and
Yes.
Danny's like, I wonder why Simon left Connie. And then she's like, I think you would probably do that. And he's like, what is that supposed to mean? She's not really paying attention to him, and she's just like, never mind.
And I love it because it's the first time she really digs in at him.
Yeah, and then he does what like you're not really supposed to do. It's actually kind of odd that he does this for like the rest of the commune, and it's kind of the beginning of signaling him out, because through the rest of the movie, as we see like Danny kind of assimilate more to this commune, we kind of see Christian being plucked out as like the off guy in this area. So he actually does something that we haven't seen in the movie yet. He starts eating before everyone else.
He digs in right away.
We also learned that Connie has been driven to the station.
It was another member of the commune.
Yeah.
He just said, that he actually personally drove her over there.
Yeah, because then also Mark realizes Ulf is just staring him down.
Then the one girl comes over to Mark and is like, oh, we're ready for you. And we don't know why.
And she just drags him away.
That's the last time we see him.
This is comical because you keep seeing their section of the table and it's just getting smaller and smaller.
Yeah.
Each member of the group is failing to come at the table one by one.
So back at the sleeping quarters, Danny's asking Josh for another sleeping pill. And you notice Josh, he's going to bed with his shoes on.
Yes. So he has night plans. He gives Danny this sleeping pill, leaves at night, and he breaks into the area where they keep the holy book. And he's like snapping pictures of all the different parts of the holy book. And then you see this shadowy figure. He says Mark And in my head, I'm like, wow, that's not
It
Mark.
doesn't really look like the shape of Mark.
Yeah. And the guy's naked.
Yes, he is.
He gets hit in the back of the head with like a hammer. And then the thing comes forward and it is a fucked up Mark.
Yeah, it is a super fucked up Mark because it's not Mark.
Oh, it's not?
It's Mark's face on the Oracle's body.
Okay.
Yeah. His skin face.
Okay. I didn't catch that. I thought it was just Mark with like
I didn't catch that either.
with his face all puffed out. That was actually just the Oracle wearing his face skin.
Yep.
Interesting. So that's the Oracle's penis?
Yes, that's correct.
I thought it was Mark's.
I'd also like to mention, I think Josh at this point was probably killed on impact because
Oh, yeah.
Oh no, he's dead. Yeah.
his skull is actually exposed and bleeding.
Yeah,
at that
because
point.
even when they pull his body away, there's blood everywhere.
Yeah.
Like he had the best death in the movie in terms of like
Quickly.
it's over.
Yeah. They didn't have any trouble playing Skin the Fool with Mark.
That makes sense now that it was his skin he was wearing. Son of a bitch.
This movie is so fucking clever. It really is.
Yeah.
And it's a Skin the Fool. Like we'll see like Mark's body later when they reveal like how everybody is being killed. It's a scarecrow. And that's like a Viking thing. Like Vikings used to do that.
This movie has, because of the Fool and other aspects, is super similar to The Wicker Man.
Yeah, and it drew a lot of inspiration from the 73 Wicker Man.
Because the Fool, the bear,
The maypole.
the maypole is all things you see in the Wicker Man, and it's all part of the pageantry of what is happening here. It's very interesting because the 74 Wicker Man did it so well, and this was done just as good.
Oh, for sure.
And then the '06 one exists.
Good point. And I like to say, because like you see all this tapestry and these paintings, and watching this multiple times, and I've seen it several times now, all of this actually is not just fluff. It actually is directly involved in practices that this cult is doing, or just like old myths and rites that the Scandinavians or some of these, like, as you mentioned, Icelandic peoples either told stories about or actually did.
The Skin the Fool thing is actually still driving for Mark. They put a jester hat on him as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he's
Yes.
so he's a scarecrow with a jester hat on.
Yeah.
It's very creepy what we'll see later on. So we cut now to the next day. The group is like, someone stole our sacred book last night. Please return it. And obviously it's a very suspicious because Josh and Mark are both missing. And now Christian, the perfect boyfriend, the best friend you can ever have, is like, Josh, the fuck Josh. We're barely friends. I don't know that guy.
He's like, listen, we don't even associate as friends of his.
And I'm like, dude, could you be any scummier of a person?
Yeah, he totally cut him off right there. He cut him out of his life. That was so crazy.
The elders tell Danny, spend the day with the girls, and that Sid wants to see Christian in her house. Next scene, Danny, she's drinking like this competitive tea, and she does the old breathe out, breathe in, the old.
I mean, Shane was introduced as something about loving blow.
Yes.
So Shane should know what this is. What is this tea, Shane?
Yeah, I have no idea.
It's
I'm not the blow expert on this podcast.
It's an herb tea.
It's a herb tea.
In this movie, I just assume every time they drink something anywhere, it's laced with something.
Oh yeah.
It just seems how this has gone. I think, yeah, what'd she say? It's like, it's supposed to give you like energy for what's about to come, the one they're about to drink. Because it is time for the great maypole dance of 2019.
All the women are holding hands in a circle around the maypole. Danny looks down, and once again, like you mentioned earlier, Shane, her feet starts to become grass due to the drink.
Yes, so she's once again becoming one with the earth. Another thing I really like in this scene is a lot of the shots as it's going, it kind of hovers on the yellow triangle in the background. So once again, it's showing it, it's there, but you still don't know the exact purpose of it.
Exactly. It's like the allure. It's such a strange looking building. You've never seen anything like it.
And you don't know what's in it.
Because everything else is like log cabins
Yeah.
or like little houses, but this is a legit triangular yellow building. You're like, what the fuck? And it's sacred. You're not supposed to go
Yeah.
in there.
It's something that I'm going to talk about what it reminds me of later on. I don't want to spoil it yet because it's like a big part, but we'll get to that. The basic way the maypole dance works is this. Music plays and you have to spin and dance around the maypole. Now the woman will say, stop. Once she says stop, you have to stop in place. If you fall down or keep moving, you are eliminated from being the May Queen. And then she will say go and you continue. This seems like it goes on for an hour or two.
It goes on for a while.
I love like the opening ceremonies. I love the history. And here it is. Long ago, the Black One lured the youths of the Harga to the grass and seduced them into dance. Once they danced, they couldn't stop, and they danced themselves to death. In defiance against the Black One, they dance until they fall. The last one standing will be crowned for her stamina, and then they commence the maypole dance.
Yes. Now, while this dance is going on, Christian has his own side plot going, where he is sitting in a waiting room waiting to talk to Shiv.
And this waiting room has a lot of chairs in it. And by a lot, I mean just one in the center of the room.
And that scene is the scene we've talked about, where a woman comes in to interview him, and Christian asks the most pressing question there is. I think I ate a pube in the pie.
That's probably right.
Yeah.
I would like to mention, though, is that in that waiting room, he's directly looking at this bear that's on the wall, giving that good once over.
Yeah.
There was a bear we saw earlier, wasn't there?
Ignore it.
Okay.
So Danny appears to be enjoying this. She's having a good time dancing around the maypole. Christian actually comes over after his talk with Siv, and he sits down. He watches the girls dance. Maya's eliminated, stares right at Christian. She's ready to... She wants Christian.
Well, I think they say Christian has been approved to mate with Maya.
Yeah.
We'd have to put that out there. That's very important.
Damien, what would you consider them? They're like an astrological match, right?
That's how she explains it. They're an astrological match.
While Christian is watching this maypole dancing, Inga gives Christian another drink. And he's like, what's in this one? And the way she phrases it is she's like, oh, you know, it's like honey, other stuff. And he's like, the other stuff?
You'll be fine. Don't worry. He's like, I'm worried about having a bad trip. She's like, you're good. Don't worry about it. Also, her name's not Inga, but I like how you use that name for every girl.
I thought that was Inga.
She says, like, it'll help you to be more vulnerable later.
This is like the first time, like, he's really like scared.
Yeah.
He looks scared.
Because
And
he got a cup from Inga number 4.
yeah. I like that. Inga number 4. I can't wait till we get to 5, 6, and 7, and 8, 9, 10, and 11.
I know, they're all in a room together at one point.
He does reluctantly drink this drink. And he starts sweating. Like,
Yeah, he's not feeling it. But now they're down to 3 dancers around the maypole, and 2 of them hit each other, and none of those are Danny.
yeah, Inga 1 and Inga 2 just bump into each other. So it's just Danny left.
She is crowned the May Queen. Everybody approaches her and they're loving her. She's getting photos taken. And then she kind of sees like Christian by the maypole. But she's like getting congratulated. She's like getting like everybody's coming up to her in the entire commune. She does see her mom walk by, which was kind of weird.
Yeah. And then Pele like gives her a kiss.
Gives her a little smoochy pooch.
And
Boner check on that? Boner check?
We're not good. I'm all about this couple.
You're starting to feel the switch. Like first she was terrorized by this, you know, this whole commune and their customs. And now it's starting to shift. Where like you're starting to see her kind of like get acclimated and she likes this environment now.
She's doing like these activities with the girls and now she's like participating in like these sports. It kind of feels like she's getting supported. It's like a family.
Yeah, I'll be honest. If I was dating Christian for 4 years, I would fully embrace a cult.
Yeah, and it's very much showing like what we said earlier about Christian being kind of exiled now because we've kind of gone through all the outsiders and Danny's now assimilating into the cult that Christian's the only one still kind of on the outside.
I mean, she's getting so assimilated. They carry Danny to the head of the table now. And now she's the one that like coming so accustomed to things. When she sits, they sit. Like she is the May Queen.
And I believe everybody like starts to eat, right? As soon as she does, everybody does.
Yeah, and we get an overhead view of Christian following everyone to the table and taking his place. Like he's not even sitting next to Pele. He's sitting like at some random place. They really try and make it look like he's not with everyone else.
Well, he's like actually at this point having a panic attack.
He's fucked
Because
up.
like you can tell he's literally like sweating. He's like shaking this whole scene. And it's the first time I do kind of feel bad for him. Shitty of a person as he is, he still doesn't deserve where his character goes.
Yeah, like all of your friends are suddenly missing. Your girlfriend's busy.
Yeah,
You haven't given her attention in 4 years and all of a sudden like she's not there for you. Oh God.
It gets bad.
They're at the table, they're eating. Danny and Christian, they kind of look at each other, clearly notices Christian's having a bad trip. But a girl puts like a salt herring in her mouth.
Yeah.
This is tradition. And she spits it out. And then like everybody laughs.
Yeah, I'm assuming this is like everyone spits out the salt herring. Like it's just one of those things.
It's tradition. But this is interesting because a girl mentioned to her that's sitting next to her. She's like, now you're part of our family.
This is where Maya gets up from the table and signals for Christian to follow her. And Christian, still like just freaking out, does. And you also see that Pele is drawing a picture of Danny, like as the May Queen, right? At this point. Yeah, Pele. He's drawing
Pele
a picture of Danny. She's like fully the May Queen. Her job now is to go around the commune and bless all of the crops.
They're getting like this very flowerful. What's the word for it?
Flowerful. I like flowerful.
It's blooming with flowers, this carriage to put her in, and then they're going to take her to all areas of the land to grace the crops.
In this scene, she actually says, "Can Christian come with me?" They say, "No, you have to go alone and you have to carry this torch because it's dark."
And then Christian notices a girl dropping flower petals from the building Maya just went into all the way to where he is seated.
Yeah.
And then it cuts back to Danny. You know, she's singing a song. She's dancing around with other members. She's blessing the livestock.
I actually have a question. I'm not sure if anyone knows what this means. Why, when they plant the seeds, do they throw raw meat and an egg on it?
What's that called when you decomp?
I
thought
that was just like a banana peel and manure.
There's probably some deeper meaning, but you can, when you save like eggshells and shit, what compost?
Yes.
Yeah, you can compost meat and all that other shit. So like, there's probably like other meaning.
That's what I was curious if there was like a specific one.
But technically, like I know from doing it, you can compost stuff like that.
Okay.
So I'm not going to look it up, and I'm just going to assume this is a type of compost.
Yeah, because they would have had to cover other meats, right? All they did was cow and chicken, and throw it in the ground.
Yeah.
There's some seeds too, but
it might also be like a version of giving back to the earth, because we noticed that they don't really, other than like eating animals, they haven't really put any animals to work. Like they have a bear that we don't get to talk about.
Ignore it.
Yeah, ignore the bear. But the girls are carrying the carriage. Like they're driving the carriage that Danny's in. So they're not even like putting animals to work.
That's true. I didn't even think of that, but that makes a lot of sense. So from our seed planting, we cut to Christian, who is brought into a place where he has to breathe in this smoke for fertility or vitality. Vitality. And a scene I never thought I would see in my life unfolds.
That's for sure.
There is Inga 1 through 10, from young to old.
It's actually 12.
Standing there naked. I didn't count. I just guessed.
So Angle 1 through 12.
Yes. Standing there, all naked. And I mean full frontal naked.
And you're talking of like almost all ages?
Yeah, no,
oh yeah.
Old
ones.
No, you got everything. And in the center of the room, on a bed of flowers, is Maya. And the way they film it is like you see like the back of her legs to show Josh naked. So you get full frontal Josh. He's an equal player here in this. And she just slowly Christian. I don't know why I said Josh. And she slowly opens her legs. Filmed very well.
She's like inviting him in.
Exactly.
The door's closed behind him once he walks in, and he starts, going over to her. They start kissing and they bang.
Yeah, but it ain't your typical bang. This is like a chanting bang where like also everyone who's there, as we've established, all feel the sensation that she is feeling.
Believe it or not, this is a borderline orgy.
Yeah, in the spiritual sense.
Yeah, so they're having sex, right? She holds her hand out. Another woman takes it and starts singing closer to her. And Maya, she's like moaning from the sex. All the women are like moaning with her. And like they're swaying and moaning with her. So they, like I said, they're sharing this intimate moment. Like they share all these emotions with Maya, with the rest of everybody there. So that's why I'm dubbing this as an orgy, because they're equally cooperating.
Are we also dubbing this as a passion bump?
Fuck yeah.
He may be on drugs, but it's there.
Passion bump! Passion bump! Passion bump!
My G.
Danny comes back after that. Like they're on their way back. I think she like gets off the carriage and she's like, "What's in that building?" And they're like, "Oh, that's not for you." But she is just so curious. She can't help but go look. So she doesn't actually enter the building though.
She looks through the keyhole, right?
Yeah, she looks through a keyhole and obviously sees Christian and which Inga is this?
No, this is Maya.
Maya. Okay.
This is actually Maya. She has a name.
Yeah, redhead. She sees Christian and the redhead having sex. And this is like, even though like she's kind of assimilating to their culture, this is still her boyfriend. And she starts losing it a little bit. She runs back to their sleeping quarters and she just collapses on the bed.
She's legit like hyperventilating.
This scene is absolutely incredible. She starts having like a nervous breakdown and like you said, hyperventilating. And all the girls surround her and start doing the same loud sob and breathing that she's doing, all in unison.
Same pitch, same time. Yeah. It's kind of crazy.
Part of the family now, so they're going to share all her remorse and anger and everything with her.
It goes on for like a minute, maybe even two. She's screaming, they're screaming. It's a very powerful scene. And it's almost like a showing of acceptance.
And then we go back to Christian. We're like, okay, this sex scene is taking a little too long, so they're going to speed it up. So the older woman gets behind him and starts
this is where it
pushing
happens.
him.
She adds a little bit more centripetal force. No centripetal
Well,
force.
No, it's centripetal force.
He's probably got whiskey dick. Been
High.
drinking all that tea and he's high.
He's
And
on a trip. And
Because
this-
I think Maya even says, yo, bro, finish.
yeah. And as soon as he finishes, she starts like rocking, which is a method to like, I guess, like help fertilize yourself.
That's
or
what
something.
She's trying to aid that sperm down the right pathway.
And she's really good at aiming sperm because she's like, I feel the baby.
She feels it immediately.
And he starts to freak out. So I don't remember the actor's name.
Jack Rayner.
Oh, yeah. So Jack Rayner. So originally the director said that he should run out in the robe that they had given him, but it was actually Jack's idea. He thought it made Christian look more vulnerable if he ran out naked. So this was his idea.
Completely agree with him there.
Yeah, it was a good call. Bold, but good.
I respect that because, like, you do feel how vulnerable he is here because he's just naked, scared.
Yeah.
You don't get more vulnerable than that.
Do you know something interesting about this actor too, Jack Rayner? Now that we're talking about him, he's in 2 other movies with Will Poulter.
Which ones?
I think one's called Grassland or Glassland, and I forgot what the other one was. But this was his 3rd movie with him.
Can't think of a movie off the top of my head that he's in. He's good in this movie, so I would like to
Yeah.
see him in other stuff.
I don't think he's an American actor, but I
I
could be
think
wrong
they're
about that.
all European,
He's in
except for one person.
yeah.
The one movie, I don't know which one it is again. I know one of them stars like Tony Colletti. It's like an Irish movie.
So he's running out. He's pretty much having a nervous breakdown at this point.
Yeah.
And he's running out and he runs into like this farmhouse or something because
Yes.
he's running every which way, has no idea where to go. He's
Chicken
alone.
coop.
That's what I put.
And this is where we find Simon.
Yes, who is the hanging butterfly, as I like to call
Do you
it.
want to know what it is called?
100%.
So this is actually a Viking ritual execution.
I
method
fucking believe
called-
it.
Yeah, it's called the Blood Eagle, which I thought you would like that name.
Yeah, I would. I mean, I know Damon's really into Vikings, so
I had a beard like a Viking once.
it's
you
true.
don't know?
Well, Shane's getting there now.
Yeah.
It's true. So this is a ritual in which the victims were placed in a prone position, their ribs severed from the spine with a sharp tool, and their lungs pulled through the opening to create a pair of wings. And the victim would supposedly be alive and conscious through the process and not die until sometime after, most likely from blood loss. And just like that, when Christian finds him, Simon is actually still breathing in this scene and might even be conscious to an extent. And obviously, like, he's part of a sacrifice.
Yeah, that's pretty sick. And the only context I could give is I think there's a murder or two like that in the TV show Vikings, because that show's got a lot of brutal kills as well, even for a show that was on like the History Channel. It's interesting because Vikings, they would raid, they would not care. There's even a part in this movie where Will Poulter's character, Mark, he's like, dude, why are there so much hotter women in Sweden? And this Josh mentions is because the Vikings would go pillage and take the girls.
Actually, now that like I'm thinking about it, he only appeared to be slightly breathing because Christian was still on hallucinogenics. And I think like he was probably alive when this was happening, but I think for the amount of time that we've assumed that he's been dead, he's not alive anymore, and that we only kind of see him breathe a little bit because Christian is still tripping.
Yeah.
Which is very believable. Sadly for Christian, a woman walks in, Inga number 17, and she blows a powder into Christian's face, knocking him unconscious.
Christian now wakes up.
A woman tells him that he can no longer speak and he can no longer move, and he is put in a wheelchair, right?
I think a wheelchair is like a chair. I'm not
Yeah.
sure exactly what it is. In any case, there's a platform in the field, and Siv is going to give another speech because this woman is all about the attention. And Danny's actually sitting down next to her.
And this is my favorite shot of Danny, where she is in the throne covered in thousands of flowers, because all you see of Danny now is her face. Like, you don't even see her whole head. It's just her face and flowers everywhere. And at this point, she looks like she's broken. She's just expressionless. Like, she's not there anymore.
Don't
Yeah.
they
It's just
tell
the
her-
body.
Don't they tell her she has to choose something?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
No, it
yeah.
happens, but
Yeah, I kind of didn't understand that, so I'm excited for you guys to kind of explain it.
Yeah, so the whole commune is in attendance here. Christian, like you said, is sitting in a chair. He's actually facing the crowd, not facing the stage, but he's like up in front. Siv mentions they're going to give special thanks to their treasured son and an offering to their father. They are sacrificing 9 human lives. For every new blood sacrificed, they will offer one of their own. Already, they have 4 new bloods, which means like the outsiders that came in, obviously not members of the commune or Harga, are sacrificed, but they've already been sacrificed, is what they're saying. Then there's 4 from Harga that will be sacrificed as well. 2 of them have already been chosen, and 2 more are to be volunteered. And then the last one, the 9th one, will be chosen by the May Queen herself. The 9 will die, but will be reborn in the new cycle. As Damien mentioned, everything is cyclical here. And then one of the elders, he mentions, the 4 new bloods, like I said, have already been chosen. 2 of their own have dedicated themselves. They look behind them, and they're literally trees.
So that's who they were. They were people in the commune then.
Correct.
Mhm.
I was so confused. I was counting them on my fingers. I was like, no, there were 2 people here, there were 3 there.
Yeah.
And I was super
You got,
confused.
like you said, you have Josh, you have
Mark, Simon, and Connie.
Mark, Simon, and Connie. They had 2 of their own that were those 2 tree
And
people.
Christian.
And Christian, well,
He's number 9.
Yeah.
Because then the 2 volunteers are,
they're Ulf and Ingemar, 2 younger guys.
yes.
Ingemar's the brother, right?
And the elder actually pays them some respects. He's like, I honor Ingemar for bringing in the new bloods and then sacrificing himself. He honors Pele for bringing in all these new bloods and providing us their May Queen. The elder that mentions it's time for the May Queen to choose the 9th. And she can choose between a new blood, which is
Christian.
Christian, or a specially picked Harga. So they do like this lottery. The lottery draws a man named Torbjorn. Torbjorn stands up next to Christian so she can make this decisive choice. And Torbjorn's like not even sad about it. He's like ready.
Yes. I love this because now Danny is just staring down Christian, almost like crying. And they just cut to them wheelbarrowing the bodies to the yellow triangle, like wheeling Christian. So she chose Christian.
So they're wheeling all these bodies, and I actually didn't understand which one was Connie. And then I'm later reading about this. So her corpse is actually quite blown up. So in the director's cut, they actually had to cut this scene out of the movie. So we've seen that like 2 members of the commune are like trees now. So a boy was going to drown himself in the lake, and he was going to wear a robe doing so. That actually was cut because Connie is her blown up body, which is blown up from being drowned and absorbing the water, is seen wearing that robe. So instead of him going to be sacrificed, they sacrifice Connie in the lake. So it's presumed that she drowned.
Cool.
Well, if there's one thing I know about this movie, about 30 minutes of it were cut.
Yeah, the director's cut has everything. Though.
Yeah, it's like 3 hours long.
I gotta
So-
watch
Which
it.
I want to see
I would
it.
definitely watch that.
So you don't believe that truck ride anymore, do you? The two-person truck ride to the station.
I'm starting to think that was a lie.
Well, it's cool because now they're wagoning all the bodies. You do see Mark's body. You mentioned the fool. He is wearing the jester hat here. This is where you know he is the fool, which kind of makes sense with this character. Then you see the scene shifting. There's an elder teaching kids how to cut open a bear. They take Christian, they lay him on the table right next to the bear that's clearly been carved at this point, and they put him inside the bear fur. So his face is like where the bear's mouth would be. It's just outstretched.
And this is the part of the podcast where I know this is all very serious right now, but I have to ask the question. So please bear with me. Bear. Who did it better? Christian or Nick Cage in a bear suit?
That's a good point. I'm going to say everything in Midsommar is better than The Wicker Man in almost every possible conceivable manner.
Yeah, but I'm going to say Nick Cage in the bear suit was better.
You're out of your mind.
He just runs around decking people
That's right. He punches so many women. It's insane.
in a bear suit, and he just doesn't take it off.
Actually, does he punch one woman?
In the bear suit, he punches one woman, but out of the bear suit, he punches 2 more. But all right, yeah, let's get serious. I just had to ask.
In paganism, in the kingdom of spirit animals, because paganism really is about worshiping the spirits of the earth and everything, the bear is symbolic of grounding forces and strength. I think is like such the opposite of Christian. Danny saw him as her rock, and he was like that in no way, shape, or form. It also says here that the bear is a powerful guide to support physical and emotional healing, if that's any more ironic.
Yeah,
He's playing like the wicked beast, right? Going inside the bear suit.
Yeah,
exactly. And an elder mentions, mighty and dreadful beast, with you we purge our unholy effects. We banish you now to the deepest recesses, where you may reflect on your wickedness.
So I don't know if we mentioned this. They are in the structure now. The
Yes.
yes,
structure.
they've moved him into the structure.
Yeah. Now they're giving Ulf and Ingemar this tincture from the yew tree to numb the pain.
Does it work?
I don't know, Shane, you're the resident MD here. Why don't you tell us?
It doesn't work. They scream in pain the entire time.
But Christian isn't moving or talking or doing anything. Like, he just sits there. They gave them the drink and immediately started burning. Like, why didn't they give them the drink like way beforehand so it could like take time and set in? Like, I don't get it.
I don't either. But Christian, because of the powder, is still like completely incapacitated. So he just sits there and burns.
Yeah. So this place is like full of hay, right? So you're thinking, Yeah, they're gonna light this place on fire. But you're thinking like the structure of the building. This building is here because it's not meant to stay here for long.
No, and that's where I was referencing earlier, and I know I've done it a lot. It's literally their Wicker Man. It is a structure built strictly to burn down for sacrifice.
Can there be a cult without sacrifice? Is it possible?
There is. There definitely is.
But I'll tell you what, out of the 5 movies we did, they all sacrificed something.
They're just not interesting enough to make movies out of that are horror movies.
Yeah.
So the 2 volunteers scream and burn. Christian just sits there burning because he's incapacitated. All the people start yelling because they feel everything the people feel. So the people burning, they feel that. And the movie ends. I got to ask, because I thought this was what it was. Is this the first time in the movie Danny smiles?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. She like looks like she's like walking and she's like in pain, but then you get another look at her and she's like kind of this relief comes over her.
Exactly. And she smiles.
And she smiles because she's like, okay, well now all of my burdens are left behind me. I literally have nobody left. These people have already accepted me. This is it.
I love that that is the last shot of the movie. Is just her smiling for the first time. So she's like, yeah, she's in this cult that sacrifices people, but it's like she finally found her peace.
It's like she'd rather be here than with that piece of shit.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Which I'll still say, to be fair to Christian, he sucks, but no one deserves to be burned alive in a bear suit.
Absolutely not.
So I'm going to start us off. This movie is amazing. I almost want to give it a 10. It'd be the first 10 I've given out on the podcast. I've now seen this movie 3 times, and each time I kind of want to watch it again. Oh, man. You know what? It's the end of cult month. Let's fucking do it. I'm giving this movie a 10 out of 10. I absolutely love this movie. It is just as good as Hereditary. And I love Hereditary. Hereditary is definitely a 10. So I have to give this movie a 10 out of 10. Everything about it is perfect. The acting, the camera work, the music choices, just the emotions it makes you feel, the characters like you support or you hate. It's not like you hate this character because of the bad acting. It's just like this person is a miserable person. It says everything about it. It's so eerie. It's so creepy. The cult is done so well. And I could go about this for hours, how much I enjoy watching this movie and kind of want to watch it again next week. It's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah. So when we started this podcast, I said, you're never going to see me give a 10 out of 10 for a horror movie. That is a lie. There's very few movies that I would give a 10 out of 10 for. This is one of them. From the second I watched this, I love this movie so much. I literally phoned up Damien and said, we're going to the movies again to see this tomorrow.
He did do that.
I saw it back-to-back days when it came out. I was mesmerized by this movie. From the beginning, the way this was whole set up, and you watch it again, and you see how like Pele was sent. He had intent to bring these outsiders here. He had intent, because he had a commonality with Danny, to bring her on board. He always mentioned he was more excited for her to come than anybody else because he knew she would be perfect to be a member. Not a sacrifice, but a member of their cult. One thing that we have to mention, you touched on it briefly in your review, and I don't want to give a complete and total backwash of anything you said because you're on the money. Everything you said is correct. Acting, dialogue, script, direction, whatever you want to say, masterpiece. But not only that, the soundtrack is so ominous, so eerie, and is perfectly placed in every single point of this movie, perfectly depicts and perfectly conveys what these characters are experiencing, what is happening, these emotions. It's a very dark, powerful movie. This is a 10, man. I didn't think I'd be giving a 10 this early on a horror movie. Not to disrespect horror movies, but a lot of them have plot holes. This is deeper than anything I've seen in a very long time, probably since this guy's work a year ago with Hereditary. Ari Aster is right now my favorite horror director, and he's only done 2 movies. Because you can only imagine how much I'm going to rant and rave about Hereditary.
Which we will get to.
So I'm going to send off Damien to give his review, but I just want to say this movie is a absolute masterpiece. It's not a film for everybody. I've seen a lot of people bash this movie for being long and boring. I did not think this was a long watch. I thought this was a very entertaining 2.5 that had good flow, great character development. And also interesting, Ari Aster, he's got a deep fear of bugs and built that into Mark's character. Because, you know, Mark's always like complaining about the ticks and shit like that. He's got a deep fear. I read somewhere that like he had to walk around with like a bunch of socks on, petrified of like ticks and getting sick and stuff like that. Because they mentioned like Lyme disease and stuff. He just goes so deep. And I love guys that go the extra mile. I said it. Jordan Peele's a young up and comer. Ari Aster, Robert Eggers, who just did The Lighthouse. This is my favorite movie that we've reviewed to date. And it might be for a long time. We'll see.
Yeah, I gotta just agree with Brian and Shane. This movie is just so perfect in so many ways that we don't give halves, right?
No.
No.
That's the problem. It's so hard for me to believe a character like Chris exists. Just because like he's
Oh, I can introduce you to like 5 people who are.
I mean, how could you just be this bad of a boyfriend? Like it's just and not even that bad as a friend. You've totally just cut out certain friends of your life. So like if we have to give a rating, I really want to give it a 10 so badly. But I mean, I can't believe that somebody like Christian could exist. It's just so hard for me to believe that. So I will give it, unfortunately, I have to give it a 9 because of that. But
That's still fair.
I was really hoping to give it a 9.99 because, as like Brian said, it's perfect in so many ways. It's just that little part of Christian does irk me because I just can't see it. I really can't.
I'll introduce you to some later. This is not my cup of tea movie. Like, I don't like Cold Month, and I didn't think particularly there was any super boring parts, but I was one of those that was like, this is so long. Like, this movie is about as long as Titanic. It's almost as long as Les Miserables. I could feel the time, and I don't know if I could feel the time because of how long the movie was, but because we haven't watched a movie that's really been under 2 hours recently. These long movies are really getting to me. I just kind of want them to get to it. Even though like everything did matter. Everything mattered in this movie, and I could put everything together. It did a very good job of that. I could not get past the time, and it's probably a personal preference. I'm going to give it an 8, which is still pretty high rating.
That's still a high rating.
But
yeah.
I'm not going to watch this again.
Really?
It's really not my cup of tea.
Gotcha.
I don't like movies like this. It was an interesting watch. I had to do it. Maybe if someone who hasn't seen it wants to watch it, I'll watch it again. But I probably won't revisit on my own.
I want to see the director's cut.
Now we propose the question, who is worthy of being added to our Necronomicon?
So let me just say this.
We have a laundry list.
A lot of good kills in this movie, and a lot of good kills that were off screen, which is fucking cool because they're like the way they were displayed. Like Simon, I think Simon is the perfect candidate, but he's not my choice.
I mean, if you're basing it off of kill, yeah, his was pretty brutal. Next to our fool.
I have 2. One I think is one that's popular, and one I'm curious if people will agree with me.
Okay,
I'll let you go first, or you want me to go first?
I mean, you can even pick the people from the Ad is Stupid, but because they chose to kill themselves, I'm not going with them.
No, my first one that I'm thinking is Christian, because this story is Danny's story, but it's also his story, and him being burned is Danny's final turning point into being happy. Now, okay, my other one is her sister Terry, because her doing what she did is really what kicks everything into motion in this movie.
Shane, that's a great fucking point. Because I would say if she killed herself, yeah, but she killed her entire family besides Danny.
Which is what makes Danny go into this even more depressed phase where she feels like she has to go to Sweden to kind of escape it. I feel like if her parents were still alive, they might have been able to help her not like maybe break up with Christian or stay here when Christian, but since she had no one, that's why she went to Sweden. So that's why I'm fine with either of those 2. So I'll listen to what you guys have to say.
So I'll go next. I think Simon had the coolest death scene in the movie, and it was off screen, which makes it sick because the whole thing of him like going in there and observing him, and like you said, because he's so lucid and he's seeing things crazy, it almost looks like he's still alive, which is a great thing to point out, Jen. I'm gonna go with the obvious one, only because it was what meant to happen. It was the buildup of everything. It's Christian in the bear outfit. Damien hit it perfectly on the head. They always refer to this like wicked beast, and it's like Christian, who was like the wicked beast of her and some of their friends, is now like almost like it's a metaphorical, and him dying paralyzed in this like inferno that's taking place on this building that clearly was meant to be broken from the beginning. I'm going Christian for mine.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to go Terry's death. I mean, that scene was insanely powerful where she's just laying with the duct tape and the hose leading toward the exhaust. That's just, what a way to go, man. That is crazy. That had to be one of the most impactful scenes in the movie, and you get it like right off the bat, like right in the beginning. I'm definitely going to go with that one. I've never seen anything like that before.
I actually will give it to Terry as well, just because even though Christian had such like an impact throughout the whole movie, we wouldn't have had this movie without Terry.
We are inking in Terry into our Book of the Dead. Is it just Terry, or are we going Terry and folks? It's just one person.
Just
right?
Terry, because she's the one who...
She killed them.
Yeah.
All right, Terry, you are now in our Book of the Dead. Shane, any last words?
Yes, Terry, we didn't know you well, but from what we did know, you had some troubles, and we are very sorry that you were going through what you did. But to be fair, if you didn't kill yourself, we wouldn't have had this awesome movie. And for that, we are putting you in our Necronomicon. And that, ladies and gentlemen, ends Cult Month, Cultathon. It's okay, Bri. It's okay.
I'm so happy it's over.
It's like such a different emotion based. Like me and Shane love these movies, and Jen's like, yeah, Christmas time.
Yay! Other murder.
Yeah, I love cult movies too. They're just so intriguing.
Do you know what it is? It's the different ideologies and the different history between them. It kind of gets me. I get it. They're gruesome and they're sick and warped, but
Oh yeah, I mean,
they're interesting.
most of the ones we watched were we started off with The Devils in Society.
Any chance?
Two very tough sits.
Yeah, there's usually just more torture in cult movies.
I'll be honest. I kind of want to do it again next year.
No, we do cult movies next year, but I'm not doing a whole month.
It was a special 5 episodes too.
It was.
Also, I feel like it would be really hard to find decade cult movies.
I'm not looking for another 90s cult movie. We will do more cult
We
movies.
could have a Satanic Panic month.
There's a lot to do with that.
I want to eventually get to Wicker Man 74.
73.
73.
Yeah.
So
That's the movie that inspired this movie, of course.
Damien, thank you for being our first ever 3-time guest. You are now officially the 3-time. It was great having you.
Of course.
Yeah. I just want to say, if it's not for my brother Damien, this podcast would not even be happening, because we are in his house where he let us create an entire studio where we borderline broke pieces of his wall on accident.
It was definitely an accident.
But it looks great, Damien. I just want to thank you so much. Really, it means a lot, because
Sure.
we love doing this.
I also want to apologize on Brian's behalf for putting up the Sallow and Cannibal Holocaust. No one deserves to have that hanging up in their home.
It's definitely tasteful when I'm having work meetings and my boss sees the
Spiked woman.
yeah.
Oh,
on
boy.
the wall. It makes for good conversation.
You can't tell off the bat what it is unless you've seen the movie. It just looks weird.
Yeah. I mean, that one doesn't really need much explaining, though. You have a good idea of what that looks like. You have a good idea of what's going on there.
Yeah.
Sure.
Damien, it's always a pleasure having you on. We hope to have you again soon. I actually asked Damien on for this one because I know he loves this movie so much. So I think it was perfect.
Yeah,
But
well-
thanks a lot, buddy.
We'll definitely have him on. He's not even a guest at this point. He's kind of just a reoccurring character. So you will be back. With all that said, obviously, next Monday is December. We will be kicking off our holiday season. What we are doing is we are actually doing a different Christmas-related horror movie every Monday. I know most people just do one towards Christmas. We're going all out for our first December. We are doing 4 Christmas horror movies. And what better way to start than Black Christmas 1974?
I could literally not be more excited. One of the first pioneer slasher films, and it's actually a film that I don't think anybody has really experimented in that same style as that one.
Some could argue that holiday season started November 1st.
Some could. I mean, you definitely could make that argument.
It's true. People throw up their Christmas trees pretty damn early.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.
Happy holidays. And with that said, we are the final podcast signing off, and we will see you next week at the sorority house. So if you haven't already, please follow us on Facebook and Twitter at The Final Pod Ever. Follow us on Instagram at The Final Podcast. And if you haven't, please give us a 5-star rating on Apple. It really, really helps Apple, push out our content and recommend us to other people to listen to.
Skull!
Skull!
Scroll.
Hey.